dagger, and I will give you power. Eternal life will be yours.
Live forever, and those I loved are dead and I to blame. I choose death.
Prince of Persia: The Sands of Time is an action-adventure game developed by Ubisoft Montreal and published by Ubisoft. The game was released across a variety of platforms in November 2003. This game is a reboot of the original Prince of Persia series created by Jordan Mechner and serves as the first game in a trilogy of games in the reboot's canon. The gameplay revolving around the prince's platforming abilities, broken up by fights with the creatures warped by the Sands of Time. A key mechanic in the game is using the Dagger of Time to alter things if the prince makes a mistake while platforming, or just wants an edge on his enemies during combat. You can manipulate time. The game features a great story that's worked to match the pace of the gameplay, and it's inspired by the epic poem The Shahnameh, making the whole experience play out as one whole narrative adventure instead of a series of interconnected levels. This game's absolutely goated, with a remake planned over 20 years after its first release. To address Steam fixes, as it's such an old game, it obviously wasn't designed with modern hardware in mind, so I played it on PC, and I had to follow a few fixes to get everything running smoothly on Steam. I'll link the guide in the description, and honestly it wasn't any trouble. The game performs very well. To focus on gameplay more directly, it seems this game was the blueprint that Assassin's Creed would follow in terms of acrobatics and navigation. We've got all the trappings of a contextual movement game, from wall running to pole swinging. The great upside is with the Dagger of Time, anything you fuck up on could just be wiped back 10 seconds and you can try again. The other side of the game involves its combat, which can get a bit much at times, but is incredibly cinematic, with you jumping over enemies, off of walls into attacks, and using the power of time manipulation to do some serious damage. Truly, you can slow it, rewind it, freeze it, and it's quite fancy and a lot of fun. We're again talking about a game from 2003. Now, the graphics for a 2003 game are good, and while 6th gen stuff does tend to lag behind a bit, this game has a unique aesthetic. You could take screenshots from any part of this game and you'd know you were playing Prince of Persia: Sands of Time. The lighting's great, and the animations from yourself, the enemies and the environment work a great deal to obfuscate simple textures and some ugly models. The sound design on a whole is peak with this game. The game being narrated by the prince and various bits of dialogue presented throughout by quite a small speaking cast. The voice acting's great.
You think me mad. I can see it by the look in your eyes. You think my story is impossible. Perhaps I am mad. Who would not be driven mad by horrors such as I have lived? But I assure you, every word is true.
For the most part.
Oh, thank God! I was afraid you were one of them! Can you help me activate the Azad defense system?
Except him. I did wish we had subtitles, however. Levels boast a selection of different music tracks with some bombastic combat pieces. And some more subdued, somewhat diegetic ambient tracks. It feels very Middle Eastern and works a great deal to immerse you. Even the background effects are nice.
There's another crack. I'll see where it goes.
The fabled menagerie of Azad, the Sultan's pride and joy. It had been one of the wonders of the world. As a child, I dreamed of it and longed to see it with my own eyes. Now it was a place of terror, an abandoned ruin laid waste by the sands of time.
Here I am.
In a somewhat novel format, especially for the time, the Sands of Time story is framed as the retelling of the prince's adventures to an unseen spectator. The plot circulates around the Hourglass of Time, as well as the Dagger of Time, a vizier who unleashes corrupting sands upon the land, and seeking to escape the deadly palace and fix what he created, the prince teams up with a woman named Farah. On the pair's journey, their personalities develop as they work together to pass through the deadly gauntlet that's now the Sultan's palace and try to fix everything. It's mint. The story's goated, the delivery more so. I'm going to get more into it in the next section, so hopefully you can see why this game is so special. Just expect spoilers from this point.
Most people think time is like a river that flows swift and sure in one direction. But I have seen the face of time, and I can tell you, they are wrong. Time is an ocean in a storm. You may wonder who I am and why I say this. Sit down, and I will tell you a tale like none that you have ever heard. Know first, I am the son of Shahraman, a mighty king of Persia. On our way to Azad with a small company of men, we passed through India, where the promise of honor and glory tempted my father into a grievous error.
No, my son. Your Majesty, I trust you will remember your promise. The Maharaja's treasure vaults lie within.
See how he rides. Like a warrior son.
The prince and the army of his father, Shahraman, are passing through India to visit the Sultan of Azad, the vizier of a local Maharaja, betraying his ruler and giving the Persians a route into the kingdom. The vizier is after something in the Maharaja's treasure vaults, and the prince rushes ahead concerned with bringing glory to his family and his people. The prince as a whole is quite a well-intentioned man. Now the first area, the approach to the treasure vaults, serves as a bit of a tutorial in terms of combat and parkour. Combat usually involves multiple enemies and consists of attacking, evading and parrying whilst avoiding as much damage as possible. Now, the prince is one agile cat with the ability to wall run and move like he was Altair. The parkour section in this game can be quite visually stunning, usually climbing over some impossibly large architecture, something straight out of Tomb Raider. Of course, eventually the prince does manage to find his way through to the vault, and we encounter our loot, the Dagger of Time. The dagger is such a cool bit of kit in a climbing game. If you mistime a jump or fall off something, rarely will you have to climb back up from the bottom, you could just reverse time a few seconds back. It doesn't take long for the prince's entourage to catch up to us.
Father, I have brought us honor and glory.
Your Majesty, you promised me my choice of the Maharaja's treasures. That dagger.
Surely you won't deny the lad a souvenir of his first battle. You may have your choice of all the Maharaja's other treasures. Except that hourglass. That will make a fine gift for the Sultan of Azad when we pass through his city. And some exotic animals for his menagerie. And a few dozen slave girls. Yes, that should be enough. I want no animals or maidens harmed until I have chosen. Let it be known, King Sharaman is merciful in victory.
Trust not a man who has betrayed his master, nor take him into your own service, lest he betray you too. I learned the truth of this to my sorrow, the day that we arrived in Azad as the Sultan's honored guests.
My friend.
My friend, your visit brings joy and honor to my poor and humble dwelling. If only you'd given me time to prepare a proper welcome.
The glories of Azad are famed throughout the world. And yet, the best is yet to come. I give you the Sands of Time. May the friendship between our kingdoms endure as long as time itself.
The sand, why does it glow?
I can tell you. Inside the hourglass is a marvel that no living man has seen. Alas, only the dagger can unlock the sands of time, and it belongs to a greater one than I. A young prince, dearer to his father than all the wealth of India. Perhaps he will oblige.
No. No! Stop!
Is it meant to do this? Alicia Sigataha!
Give me the dagger. No. You have unleashed the sands of time. I can undo what you have done. Give it to me.
Things managed to get very ropey very quickly, with the Sands of Time corrupting the Sultan of Azad's court and our father's own men.
Prince, use the dagger.
When we fight the sand creatures, we have to finish them off with a dagger or they'll just get back up. It's a supernatural force and you'd feel that being reinforced through the gameplay. Without the dagger, we'd be screwed, we wouldn't be able to fight these things. Combat is very light and acrobatic, and though I found a few times in the game it does go on a bit longer than I wished it would.
Each time I struck them down, they rose to fight again. I soon realized that only by taking into my own dagger the sands that possess them could I liberate them from their monstrous living dead.
Eventually though, we dispatch our foes, and the only other survivor we know of goes running, a woman from the Maharaja's vault. When we see the sands rising into a column, we can enter them, not only to save, but to see a premonition of the next area. Again, time isn't a straight line in this game. What makes the game flow nicely is the prince's constant narration.
The miracle I had experienced by accident in the Maharaja's treasure room, I now discovered that I could trigger at will. By pressing a switch on the dagger's handle, I could turn back time.
Trapped in the Sultan's palace, we do all we can, that being trying to find the woman we saw, and through careful manoeuvring we managed to escape the palace throne room, fighting through envoys until our paths cross again.
Give me the dagger.
Who are you?
I am Farah, the daughter of the Maharaja from whom you stole it. This is your doing,
I saw my father turn to sand.
and we will share his fate if you do not give me the dagger to undo what you have done.
Your traitorous vizier used the same words. From now on, I trust no one but myself. Run! Go back to the reception hall. Wait for me there. Go!
The woman is a princess, the daughter of the Maharaja, claiming she can use the dagger to reverse what has been done. Though fearing she's as trustworthy as the vizier, we refuse. Being interrupted by scarabs and separated again, we tell Farah to go back to the throne room. We manage to actually see the hourglass again, being taken off to a far tower in the distance by some form of sand-corrupted vulture. Our journey continues deeper into the palace, passing through some form of giant lounge, having to jump around a massive room, and it's quite a visually impressive area. We even fight what I imagine is some form of sandified concubines, and I remember as a kid, they had the same appeal as those Hex sisters from Scooby-Doo, like, come at me, half-naked goth mummies.
It was indeed the dagger of time. I began to realize why the vizier wanted it so badly.
After leaving the lounge, getting through some hidden passages, we actually encounter the only other survivor in the game, a guard looking after the palace's defence system. Things get a little bit weird.
Oh, thank God! I was afraid you were one of them! Can you help me activate the Azad defense system? It'll take both of us to do it! I'll reset the axles for you! The man who's normally in charge of this got... Never mind! Ride the platform!
The Sultan was an eccentric guy, harvesting the power of the moon, looking for the sands of time, and later on we find out he collected exotic animals. The lines definitely get a bit blurred for a 9th century AD flick, but fuck it. If it makes the game more varied, I'm here for it. Something has to keep the halls of traps powered, and I don't think they had batteries back then. Now we help the dude activate the Azad defense system, and we have a bit of time to breathe and decompress. Unfortunately, the goat gets got, and we can look across and see a sandified corpse. The spike traps in the next area are a good stop for me to show you what happens when you die.
That didn't happen.
Now the prince has a variety of lines to the effect of, no, 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 that's not how the story goes, eat shit. It's just quite a nice touch, isn't it? We continue our trek back to Farah, taking an outside route across some rooftop gardens, and the outdoor section of this game feel beautiful. There's a fine balance to be struck between ancient ruined death trap and take me backpacking holiday destination, and the game strikes it well. The game doesn't really segment well in terms of levels and chapters. Things just sort of flow into one long epic. Eventually though, we get back to Farah with a shocking reveal. Daddy's gone rogue. They introduced the blue-coloured enemies here. Now, besides the prince's father himself, which for some reason, I think he's just blue thematically, blue enemies can't be jumped over and attacked. It's such a useful move, and it made the red enemies super easy to deal with, but it does make them substantially harder to deal with. We do have Farah firing pot shots to assist us, though she's unable to ever finish any enemies off. Remember, she doesn't have the dagger.
I'm sorry.
Why?
I know what it is to lose a father.
That was not my father.
We rush into the sands in front of her.
So, this is the thanks I get for saving your life.
You don't understand. I need that dagger to undo.
To undo what I have done. Truly you must think I'm a fool.
You are right to be cautious. But fight as bravely as you may, you cannot defeat this enemy. The sands will spread. They will consume everything. I have heard it said that you are kind as well as brave. Please believe me. Help me find the hourglass.
It is in the Sultan's treasure vault, atop the Tower of Dawn.
How do you know that?
I just know. Come with me then if you insist. But I warn you, I move pretty fast. You'd better keep up.
And the two begin their quest to reach the Sultan's Tower. The hourglass, and with it, fix everything. We go through a substantial amount of rooftop sections with Farah and the Prince, using their own abilities to open up pathways for one another. There's quite a bit of combat, and not too much of story notice.
Please don't. You're liable to hit me.
We do eventually end up at the Sultan's Zoo, though none of the animals seem to be around to remind us of that. Enemy variety changes here with big hammer-wielding guys we can't just attack from the front or they'll block us. Farah also demonstrates that she's a double-edged sword with us having to protect her in combat, sometimes making encounters harder than they should be.
Birds. I wonder how they survived the sands.
I don't think they did survive.
Throughout the zoo, the two have a chance to work together and bond naturally, and their connection doesn't seem forced as they take their time to interact through all of this.
If you have believed the rest of my tale until now, perhaps you will also believe me when I tell you that, as we made our way through the moonlit ruins, I began to feel strangely drawn to the girl at my side. My reason told me to distrust her, for she had good cause to hate me. Yet she had proven herself a loyal companion. And I confess, I was grateful for the company of someone who, like me, was flesh and blood. I'm fine, thanks.
There's no door.
Stand on that pressure plate, will you?
How will I get through?
I don't know. Can't you crawl through a crack or something?
I'd say there's a good chunk of game where there's not much to say on the video, it's just something you sort of have to experience. The Prince and Farah work their way back inside the palace, though this time through the baths. The main things here are we're introduced to water that ruins platforming, the Prince can't wall run if he's wet. And we get to see what I imagine is the slaves of the palace, their chains now weapons to be swung at us. Through some more puzzling and a bit of teamwork, Farah and the Prince manage to push on deeper into the palace. The Prince finding some ancient relic of a sword, one that we can now use to smash through certain walls and doors blocking our path. I could probably also mention that hidden throughout the palace are secret paths to a magic fountain that when drunk from, increases our health. Though it's not clear if the Prince is imagining these places, and that gets teased a little bit later.
You do have the strength of Rustam.
Farah flirts with us as we leave the baths, finding out the palace was built upon the ruins of a much older one. Now I found the mid-game to be the most challenging part of the experience. As you upgrade the capacity for your dagger, this also leads you to having to wait longer to use your abilities, some of them requiring a full tank capacity to use. It's very catch-22. We find our way into the barracks and combat ramps up slightly, these sword-wielding dudes being a real pain to deal with and giving me constant anxiety they'd slap Farah to death. I mean, it'd take sort of 2 combo swings from them and that's about it. The barracks is a very pretty area, however, the sun now rising up and us having to scale both the interior and exterior of some large towers.
Thanks.
Don't mention it.
The backdrop's painting a scene of just how massive this palace is, and how big our quest is. As the Prince advances through the story, his outfit visibly changes. It's a bit like the Arkham games if you ever played those, where as Batman progressed through the story, his outfit got more damaged and things changed. And it's the same here, we'll eventually end up completely shirtless. It's a nice touch. We head out of the barracks and things take a turn. Farah asks us to meet her at the baths again, and the Prince talks to himself without her presence. His dialogue and his actual attraction for her is very, very funny. It's all Sigma.
I'll just ask the first sand creature I run into. Could you direct me to the baths, please? Well, thank you. Don't mention it. I used to be a bath attendant back when I was alive. I'll meet you at the baths. She orders me around as if I were a servant. It's my own fault. With women, you need to show them you're in charge right from the start, or they'll walk all over you. I've been too indulgent. Probably because I felt sorry for her. Well, it stops now. From now on, she'll have to toe the line. That is, assuming I can find her. I didn't realize you meant these baths. I went to the other baths, clear across the other side of the city. I had a lovely wash and a rub with fragrant oils. Too bad you weren't there. Stop talking to yourself!
We make a bit of a detour through the caverns around the palace, and it's at this point all of our premonitions show some troubling things about Farah. Her in danger, or her trying to steal from us, and it's not quite clear what's going to happen, if and when we eventually reach each other. We do eventually find our way back to her after quite a long section without, and things get quite cute when the two are reunited.
I'll start the story from here next time.
Don't leave me. My love. Please don't leave me.
What did you call me?
It doesn't matter. The important thing is, I know how we can reach the Tower of Dawn.
Of course.
I ship them both.
All right. But this time, stay with me and pay attention. Can't spend all day chasing after you.
We make our way closer and closer to the Tower of Dawn, even encountering a library with all these light puzzles in. They never quite explain why they're here or how they work, but the Sultan's definitely into some esoteric things. The whole library section's quite memorable, not only for the character dialogue, but also the massive zone we're swinging about and climbing through. The stakes just keep getting higher and higher, even the traps get more numerous. It's like the palace itself is fighting against us.
What's the worst that can happen? There you go.
While traversing the outside of the palace, eventually we do fall down one of the bridges, the prince seemingly forgetting he has the dagger on him. It just doesn't work. We fall down into what is believed to be a prison, and we have to work our way throughout this place. The platform, while satisfying, is brutalistic in style. The prison looks like it was horrid. All throughout, the prince is spurred on to return to Farah by his premonitions, and the prince's narration just slaps.
It was the first time I had seen such devices at close range, close enough to touch. Where were the men whose trade it had been to apply the question, to extract the answer their king sought? If indeed there was one. In the end, they had met the same fate as their victims, guards and prisoners made equal by the sands of time.
After returning to Farah, one of our premonitions terrifies the prince that she's going to steal the dagger from him, and I wouldn't blame him. All the premonitions have come true so far. It seemed pretty cut and dry.
It's all right. It's me. It's me. Look, at last we're here. The Tower of Dawn.
Cue what's quite a difficult elevator climb full of some combat that actually took me off guard the first time I played through. We eventually make our way to the hourglass itself, things again taking a turn.
You did it! Take the dagger. Strike it into the center of the dome.
father's army sacked your palace, captured you as a slave.
What?
You have every reason to hate me.
What are you talking about?
Now you want me to trust you.
Go on. There's no time.
Give me the dagger.
The dagger! He must not get the dagger!
I had faced my enemy. I had looked into his eyes, and I had lost everything. A tomb.
You were there. The dagger was in your hand. Why did you hesitate? You think you're cleverer than everybody, but you're just like the rest of them. Those soldiers, all they can do is fight, destroy. Why did I trust you? Why didn't you trust me? Ow!
Sorry.
Where are you?
I'm right here.
Hold my hand. Don't let go. I didn't mean what I said.
No, you're right. All that's happened is my doing. I wanted honor and glory. I brought this on us.
You are brave and good. If this tomb is to be ours, at least the dagger will be buried with us. And we are together. What is it?
Nothing.
You're trembling.
I just don't like close spaces. There must be some way out of here.
When I was small, my mother taught me a secret word. She said that when I was afraid, all I had to do was speak that word, and a magic door would open. I've never told that to anybody.
I can see why. It's the most childish thing I've ever heard of. What was the word?
Kakolukiam.
Kakolukiam. You did that, didn't you? Farah?
The prince choosing to save Farah than the world, and the two bond further in the darkness below the palace. Chasing further into some mysterious tombs, the prince sees Farah.
It's beautiful. Come on.
Was it real, that magical cavern? If it was a dream, then it was a dream we both shared. I know it was.
Now, we're unsure if this actually happened, the prince saying this could have been a mutual dream. Probably some sort of magic could have messed with things like the fountains. Farah's gone, and so's our dagger, so we have to push forward, and we're having to avoid combat now because, again, we can't kill anything, we don't have the dagger. That's until we find another ancient sword, this one able to kill the sand creatures, as long as you can make contact with them. We climb the ruins of the palace, wrecked by the Vizier's sandstorm, until we encounter Farah again.
Farah, no!
And a dagger without any sand left in it. Emboldened to push on by the death of our love, we cut down swathes of undead. And work our way back to the hourglass, our final premonition showing us what would happen if we don't turn back time. And it's eerily bleak, I'll let it play.
Honor and glory were mine. But though I fight until the desert sands themselves were red with blood, I could not bring back the dead.
Things get quite emotional when we move down to the chamber with the hourglass.
No. No.
The girl is unimportant. Give me the dagger, and I will give you power. Eternal life will be yours.
Live forever, and those I loved are dead and I to blame. I choose death. Do not be afraid. This belongs to you.
The dagger of time. But it is locked away within my father's treasure vault. How?
Most people think time is like a river that flows swift and sure in one direction. But I have seen the face of time, and I can tell you, they are wrong. Time is an ocean in a storm. You may wonder who I am and why I say this. Sit down, and I will tell you a tale like none that you have ever heard. No further. I am the son, and that is why I have come. To warn you and your father to arrest this treacherous vizier before he betrays you and brings ruin on us all. His signal is a flaming arrow shot into the air. Prevent him, and my father's army will know the traitor has been unmasked. They will turn back.
A wild tale indeed. I have a simpler version. A Persian soldier, lusting for glory, entered the chambers of the Maharaja's daughter and was slain by me. Your Highness, for your own safety,
We find out the person the prince was narrating to wasn't us, it was Farah herself. He'd reversed time back to before the invasion with the aim of returning the dagger and stopping the vizier. And you can guess who our final boss is.
Intruder.
What sorcery is this? Stop this at once!
My lady, he came here to abduct you. Surely you do not believe him.
He will betray you!
The vizier sends
All
magical
happens
clones
I
at
have
us.
foretold.
Now, these could be illusions or just artifacts from the staff of time that he's wielding. I'm not sure.
Do not forget,
You just have to
that
parry them or
Persian
get lucky with
soldier-
your sword strikes. If you've got a full tank of sand, you can use that ability as well. Now, eventually fighting him out on the balcony.
And so it ends. How will the Maharaja feel when he finds his only daughter slain by the son of his enemy? Do you have any last words you wish me to communicate to the princess before I kill her? Words of love, perhaps?
He dies in such an anticlimactic manner, and the final cutscene plays, the prince being an absolute G.
Then it's true. He was a traitor.
Take this. Return it to your father's treasure vault. Guard it well.
I owe you thanks. But why did you invent such a fantastic story? Do you think me a child, that I would believe such nonsense? I said I owe you thanks. You presume too much. Such a fantastic story. Do you think me a child, that I would believe such nonsense?
You're right. It was just a story.
Wait! I don't even know your name.
Just call me Kakolukia.
The vizier defeated, the dagger returned, and the romance seemingly left on a cliffhanger. We've saved the day, job done. So what did I think of the game? To conclude, I think the game delivers itself an engaging story supported by tight gameplay and presentation. Everything you do feels fun, whether it's climbing enormous monuments to fighting off hordes of the semi-eternally damned. The prince as a character is charming, and his narration throws a lot of polish onto the game, and I'd agree that Farah is as well. It took me around 6 hours to complete, and most areas are quite linear, with few variations on how you might answer one puzzle multiple times. I'd say replayability is actually quite low on this title, but the experience of playing through it once is great. You don't need a game to be infinitely replayable. It's £8.50 on Steam currently, and you'd struggle to find a single player story-driven game that's better in that price bracket. 10 out of 10, top bins. Over and out, Smooth Brains.